Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains. Today we are working on a garage footer tile, and I'm actually in the neighbor's yard to show you what's going on here. There's a tremendous amount of construction here. A lot of people buy those small salt box homes, they tear them down, and they build these 5,000 square foot homes. Up here at the top of the hill, you can see they're going to do some grading here, but this lot comes this direction. They bring in the water out here, and you can see the erosion. It just pours down through here. New home here, another home behind me as well. And you can see this water just runs down through here like a river every time it rains. What it's doing, of course, is hitting this garage. And the garage is underwater when it rains. You can see the mud. The builder has put up a silt fabric and straw to try to stop some of the water, but of course it's doing nothing. And what we've got to do is dig down along this footer, put gravel perforated pipe. We're going to bring that to grade to help capture that water. And then it's going to come around here to the back, and it's actually going to discharge. You can see the homeowner tried to do something himself, but it's going to go around the house over to the other fence, where we're going to put a sump pump, and a good half horsepower pump, pumps about 80 to 100 gallons a minute, collect all this water and try to send it out to the street. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the homeowner, he tried to put a system in, but you can see he didn't get very deep. Give him an A for effort, but you can see the pipe, it's just right on top of the ground. He surrounded that with gravel, and even though those catch basins are 3 or 4 inches high, water still ran down through the gravel, and it turned, and over here he had a sump pump to pick up the water. This line comes from a downspout in the front, and he picked the water up here, and then he sent it out, and it actually pumps over where we're putting our sump pit. So we're going to reconnect all these lines, get them to the proper grade, new gravel, footer tile along that garage, right along that wall, down through this trench, and the sump pit right here is going to sit right over here. So all that water that comes from where I showed you the neighbors way at the top of the hill, it's all going to be collected on that side of the house with catch basins, French drain, and footer tile, and then it's going to get piped around to here. We're using a half horsepower pump. We're going to run a 2-inch discharge, and it's going to go out to the front, under that fence, and go all the way out to the front. So the question is, will this work? Well, that pump will pump 80 gallons a minute. That's a couple of trash cans full of water every minute. My answer to that question is, you can never beat Mother Nature. It will keep up with average rainfalls, but during a 4 or a 5-inch rainfall in 30 minutes, well, no matter what size pipe you put out here, it's going to flood. But right now that water has no place to go, so it won't stay here. It should only stand for an hour at that, if that, and that pump will pump it out of here. So that's the solution that we're coming up with, and I've done hundreds of these. They seem to work pretty good. So we finished the discharge line. Remember that this trench is coming from the sump pump, from the sump pit. We're running 2-inch pipe. Right here we'll put a pop-up or a grate, or we may let it come all the way out to the street just so that it has a good discharge. This line does not have to be very deep. We'll clean this out a little bit, but you can see we laid a piece of our 2-inch down here in the trench, and it looks great. It's well deep enough, no problem, cover it up. But this line comes from puppy back here barking. This line comes from the sump pump and the sump pit, which is way back there at the corner of the house. So before you put your pop-up on, remember this is a sump pump line coming from the sump pump. I like to go ahead and glue all of the pipe together using our couplings, and then we'll roll it over and just lay it in the trench. So do 50, 60 feet, and then see where you're at. It's a lot easier to make that connection at the end of the trench with your pipe already installed. So a good amount of glue on your coupling. I usually leave the long piece for last. So small short piece, pop it on there, and a good amount of glue on the existing pipe, which is already 60-70 feet, because it'll slide together much easier. We're going on to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to go under the fence. It's important to try not to get dirt down in your pipe. You try your best, but you know, if you do, you do. You can see here is the line that's going to the street all the way out, so we need to just go back just a little ways. So we've got a little gap there. Now we'll go ahead and put a coupling on. For those of you that love to use primer or make the comments, you can see we do use primer. Primer is best to use glue right afterwards while it's still wet, believe it or not. So glue up your coupling. That's ready to stick together. Let's get this down here where you can see, maybe. Try. Hope you can see. Still the same thing. A short end, tap it tight. This is the tricky one. Yeah, there we go. Just twist it right on there. Nice. So we've got all the pipe laid. Now let's just go ahead and kick it into the trench. So from the fence, we've got all the pipe glued together. This is now one solid pipe, and I'm just going to go ahead and start laying it down in the trench. Don't worry if some dirt drops in, won't hurt anything. Basically it's heavy, so you know, this is what, 110 feet, so we've got quite a bit of weight there. Just take your time, but you can see it's going to line up really good right at the pop-up. Now all we need to do is glue this joint together. What we've got here is 2-inch pipe, a 2 to 3 inch adapter, a 3-inch 90, and a pop-up coming up. So as that water comes down the line, it's going to push this pop-up up. I'm actually going to put a screw in it right here because it's under pressure. We don't want this to pop off. It's going to come up, disperse, and then head out into the street. So out here at the discharge, you can see how this will set up. Is we've got an adapter that goes from 2-inch to 3-inch. We're going to glue all these pieces together. We've got a 3-inch 90. On top of the 3-inch 90 sits our pop-up. And remember, water pushes that up as it comes up and just goes out. Let's go ahead and glue it all up. Let's use our handy dandy drill and secure this guy on here. Perfect. So now we're ready to go ahead and backfill this. So just use your rake and just pull it right back over on top of the trench. Okay, so now we're going to hook up this downspout right here. They've got it on top of the ground. Basically, I've got to pull this mulch back, move those pots out of the way so I can run the trencher right alongside here. We're also going to put a catch basin out here somewhere. So we just need to create a path. We'll put a T or a Y on it right here. So let's go ahead and get started. So we've already excavated this down to the footer. Of course, again, we do have to wash that off, clean it off. Then we'll put gravel, perforated pipe all along this wall right at the footer level. It'll come over. At the end of the structure, at the end of the garage, we'll turn. We'll take the existing French drain. We had to dig deeper. The homeowner did this himself, and boy, did he do a lot of work. But it just wasn't quite deep enough. So we removed all that. We'll put an all new system in. It comes over, comes into our solid pipe and goes over to the sump pit. Sump pumps, lifts it up and takes it out. We're also attaching we're putting a French drain here. We're going to use his existing French drain, the gravel perforated pipe, because this area floods really bad. So this is working great, but it needs to have a good discharge. So again, it's all going to tie into that drain that you see the trench. It's going to pick up this downspout. It's going to pick up a catch basin. We're going to set another catch basin right in here. And you can see the trench continues on. Another catch basin up here at the end of it. And we'll also tie this downspout in, because the whole yard, even the front yard, is all grading back to right there by his porch. If you look carefully, you'll notice, you see the block wall, and you can see the efflorescence hitting, coming through that wall. There's actually a scratch coat, original parging. Parging refers to a cement coating that goes over block, or a brick, and in this case it's block. So they put a scratch coat on so they could put a second coat on, but they did not seal this wall. Water has come down through all this area, mostly from that hill over there. It's all come down and just gotten into that block. So all the things that we're doing are going to help. We added a catch basin connected to the downspout drain, which runs right down through here all the way along the foundation to move that roof water away from the house, because a lot of water comes off the roof. Then we tied into his existing drain right here. He's got a downspout that comes in, it all comes down, and is going to discharge right here. We've got the back footer cleaned and sealed with liquid rubber. That's Blackjack number 57 for those that want to know. Now we're going to add a catch basin, and we'll add another catch basin, hook up the downspout, lay the pipe, bring in the gravel, and we are done. Okay, so today we're installing a Liberty pump, and this is a model 287. It's a 1/2 horsepower, and this thing's really powerful. It's heavy too. It's got a nice float system. As water rises in the pit, kicks on the switch, pump kicks on, and we'll send it out. The reason that we're using this 1/2 horsepower is because, remember, we're picking up all this water that we're bringing down through that trench from that hill and the garage and several catch basins. You can kind of see the grade of just his yard. We're going to put another catch basin there. A lot of water coming down here, and then it's going to get pumped out all the way out to the street. So this Liberty model 287, again, 1/2 horsepower pump, and it's still 110 volt, which is the good part about that. Sets up the same way as any other good pump. We're going to start with a male threaded 1.5" adapter. This screws right into the port. This has an 1.5" discharge, and once it comes up out of the pit, we're going to enlarge that right away to 2". So you screw that adapter into the port. Next, you're going to have a piece of PVC that we've already cut. This is to support the riser where we're going to put our check valve. So let's go ahead and glue that in place. Put a little bit of primer on the air. And your glue, remember that you want to put that on there while it's wet. You can put it on while it's dry too, but it definitely gets stickier and tackier quicker when it's wet. Push it in and hold it just for a couple of seconds, and that's going to set up real tight. Next, we're going to put our check valve on. And remember that a check valve only allows water to flow one direction. We're pumping almost 150 feet uphill, about 1.5 to 2 feet. We don't want that water to come back, each time the pump kicks on, we don't want that water to come back in the pit. We want the pump to take it out. So there's a little arrow, if you can see it. You see that arrow? That tells you direction of flow. So we want to make sure that we set that pointing upwards. The check valve is held together with stainless steel no-hub clamps. And we're going to use a 5/16 inch nut driver to tighten them down on there. There's actually a little slot that this band sits on, Just got to get it in place, and then you can tighten it up. Just as tight as your drill can make it. I've already tightened this top one. Now I've cut another piece, a small insert, because our 90 is going to sit on there. We're actually coming out of the side of the pit. So we want to make sure that we have the pieces already cut. Again, stainless steel no hub. Pop it in. Make sure you get to the bottom of that coupling. Slide your no hub on. Tighten it up. Nice and tight. Now before we put our 90 on there, I'm going to set the pump back in because we need to come out the side of that pit. So let's set it back in the sump basin. So let's set the pump back into the sump basin. Remember, that pump's a little bit heavy, so bear with me. Now we're going to stick our 90 on here, and we're going to drill a hole through, a 2-inch hole for the 1.5 inch pipe right through the side of the basin. Okay, so I've got the pipe laid in our trench, so this is the direction that it's coming out. So I'm going to go ahead and start drilling the hole right here with my handy dandy Black & Decker 20-volt drill. This is a 2-inch hole saw, and we just want to cut right through it. That hole is the exact outer diameter of our 1.5 inch pipe. Okay, so I've got everything secured to this point right here. Next we're going to glue our 90 on there, so let's do that. We'll start by putting some primer, if you have it available. You don't have to use that, but a lot of people like it. On this application I definitely like it. This is a very powerful pump. It does create about 30 pounds of pressure, so we need that. Need some glue on our 90. We're going to stick this in place. Just push and hold. Perfect. Next, we're going to go ahead and slide our 1.5 inch pipe through the hole, and you can see it lines up just perfectly. And then it's going to come out and it's going to change to 2-inch right there, and then it's going to run all the way out to the street. So again, let's prime this up, glue it up. Perfect. Get our glue on place. Prime it up, glue it up, and then we're just going to slide it through and stick it together. Let that set up for a second, and we've got this ready to go. So next, we're going to go ahead and put our inlet line in. You can see here's the inlet, and here's the inlet pipe. We're going to slide that right through this hole. First, we have to make a little slice in this pipe. We do that with the hacksaw. Just a little slice. We're going to squeeze it together. We're going to squeeze it together and then slide it right inside that hole. It actually expands once it comes inside and makes a really tight fitting. So that's really about it on this installation of the sump pump. Again, this is a Liberty Model 287, a great pump, 80 gallons a minute. That's a couple of trash cans every minute this pump puts out, even on a 2-foot head, which is the rise from the bottom of the pump. It's actually a 3-foot head. Comes up and it's going to go up about a foot all the way out to the street. So we just installed a Liberty. This is a effluent pump, which means that it can pick up 3/4 inch solids. If little rocks drop in there, it'll be able to pick those up and suck them right out through that line. The impeller is that strong. It also pumps about 80 gallons a minute. This has 8 amps when it runs, but it takes quite a bit to start it. It takes almost 20 amps to start. So you're going to need to have at least a 20 amp breaker installed. It comes with a 10-foot cord, and it's 110 volt. We're going to leave an extension cord here for the homeowner, and he'll have to have an electrician come out. Basically, we're all done with that. We're going to go ahead and snap our lid in place and cover it up. Okay, so you can see our inlet line comes into the sump basin. And then we've got an outlet that has an 1.5-inch discharge port, so we switch immediately to 2-inch, and this 2-inch, all coupled together, glued together, runs all the way out to the street. Okay, so we're working on the footer tile here. You can see we've dug down to the footer. We've got to clean it off, of course. We found what looks to be like a 6-inch storm drain from inside of the garage. So they brought the water that flooded inside the garage, or when they built it, that's under the floor. The floor level is actually about right here. And what we're trying to do is we're going to put gravel perforated pipe, our footer tile, a French drain. It's going to go around and tie into another drain, but you can see the grade. Let this catch up. All this water comes from way up this hill, comes down. You can see the algae building here on the side of the building. Inside the garage is just covered with mud. So we're going to go ahead and put a new footer tile, seal the wall with liquid rubber. It's going to go down, had to go around this big old footing right here, and it's going to tie into the existing drain on the other side. Okay, so we've washed off the wall. We put up our liquid rubber, as you can see. Now we're getting ready to lay some gravel perforated pipe, the footer tile, also called a French drain. It'll come down, drops into that deeper trench, and then gets carried away on the other side. So again, it looks like a complicated system, but it's really not. Here on the other side of the catch basin, this is coming from the other side of the garage where we sealed the wall. This is actually just a French drain. It's going to have gravel perforated pipe, as you can see the gravel. This is a footer tile over here. And this is the footer tile up on the sealed wall. It's actually higher than the French drain. It runs down, it's going to come around, and it'll tee into this drain. So again, it's not real complicated. We're going to cover both of these trenches with gravel and bring it to grade. Line will come down. It has a T. It picks up all of this side of the house, goes down through the trench. We're going to add a couple more catch basins down in this deep trench, preferably down here at this end. It's all going to come over, go into the sump pit. The sump pump lifts it up and is going to send it all the way out to the street. So this is 1 yard of number 67 stone, 3/4 inch to about 1 inch stone. Pouring it in the trailer. $44. So if you've got a trailer or a truck, getting gravel is a lot cheaper than getting it by the bag. This load was $48, and of course you have to go get it, but you just scoop it up with your flat shovel, put it down in the barrel, and you haul it around to wherever you're going to take it. The reason that this homeowner is doing all this work is because of this yard right here, and because of this construction. That water, you can see they've tore up the yard, they've excavated. Now they've diverted all that water over here against this garage. Same builder, 2 houses on the top of the hill, all that water is coming right over here on the wall. So you can see we've got 2 separate systems. One is the footer tile, one is the French drain. Footer tile comes around, it does discharge into the French drain, comes down, this is still perforated pipe, and then it's going to turn to solid and run on over. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.